I've been debated if I'm going to do this or not. I think we're going to do it. Tanya, come on up here. Joe, come on up here. Okay, this is going to help everybody just sort of get a picture, okay? I know, you take a deep breath. Okay, Joe and Tanya, Tamar, Ammon. David's son and daughter by one wife. You got that? David's son and daughter by one wife. Okay, come on up, Joey. You're smiling. Come on down, Joey. Joey is Absalom. Joey is another son of King David. Okay? You get this? He's with King David and one wife. These two are brothers and sisters with David and the same wife. These two have the same mom. Ammon has a different one. Ammon is King David's oldest son. Ammon looks at his sister, half-sister, Tamar, and says, she's beautiful. I want her. Remember what David did to Bathsheba? Same thing. 20 years later, Ammon takes his sister and does things with her which we won't speak about. They're unmentionable. Okay? He's over here. Absalom, her brother, is furious over it. You can imagine, I'd be furious if somebody did something to my sister. King David, Dad David, did nothing about the situation. Absalom takes his sister into her house, and Absalom sort of takes care of her. Wants to keep her protected. Absalom ends up being almost, shortly he gets not thrown away, but he has to leave the Jerusalem area because since David has done nothing against his son Ammon for raping his daughter, Absalom has a big party. He throws a big party. Big party. Yay! Big party. You know what happens at the end of the party? He kills Ammon. That's rude. But the king did nothing about it. Your dad didn't discipline you. So your brother, your half-brother, did it for him.
That was nice of him.
Uh-huh. That was nice of him. So you're gone. At that point in time, Tamar and Absalom has to run away because his dad's mad. Then he comes back. Tamar ends up never marrying, we believe, through Scripture. Now you guys can go back down. Thank you. Well, you can go back down. You got to here. At that point in time, about some years later, Absalom now says, I think I'm going to start to take over. And he starts to stay at the city gates of Jerusalem. And he convinces people, don't go to my dad the king, bring all your cases to me. I'll do it. He gets his own chariot. Some of you may know the story, Absalom has long hair, not short hair, long flowing hair. He is a handsome guy. So Absalom, at one point in time, decides he's going to revolt against his dad and marches into Jerusalem with an army, and King David flees. Okay? Thank you, Joy. Thanks, Joe, and thanks, Tanya. Thank you. Hopefully that for all of you just gives you a picture. Do you need to call it? We didn't hear anything ringing. Goodbye. What do you do? What do you do? Whose two daughters were those? Okay, where's Kim and Mike? One's ours. Anyway, I hope you get the picture of what's going on. So Absalom is rebelling against his dad. His dad had no discipline with the children. And didn't even discipline Absalom when Absalom killed his half-brother. No discipline whatsoever. David leaves Jerusalem. And in the midst of leaving, David ends up, it's believed, in the desert. And Psalm 63 has this to say to us, the first couple of passages, first few verses. is, "Oh God, you are my God." Do you notice within that first part of that verse, David says, "You are my God." It's not you're somebody else's God. God does not have grandchildren. I can't believe how many people that I talk to who say to me, "Well, yeah, my grandparents used to go to church, or my parents go to church once in a while." I think, well, what good does that do you? Well, I've heard from people, well, my grandfather was a pastor. To somebody yesterday, I was at a meeting with the Air Guard up at Lansing, and they said, "Well, my father-in-law is a pastor." And I said, "Well, what does that have to do with you and your faith walk?" God doesn't have grandchildren. God has children. David here says, "Oh God, you are my God." There is a personal nature there. "Earnestly I seek you." The Hebrew word here for earnestly also means early. So if you look in different translations, some of them say, "Earnestly I seek you," some of them say, "Early I seek you." I like the idea early. Early in the morning. David is saying, the first thing that I do when I get up in the morning, I seek you, God. How many of us don't like to put it off? How many of us, we know we should exercise. I mean, you should get out and do something physically of walking or running or whatever. But, okay, I'll do it in the morning. No, I'm running late. Okay, I'll do it in the afternoon. No, I don't. Okay, I'll do it no, I'm not going to do it at night. I got to sit down and watch some TV and have popcorn. And the day is gone. How many of us don't do that with our prayer time? Instead of doing it first thing in the morning, starting the day off right, we put it off. What is David saying here? David is saying, in the midst of his wilderness, and not just the literal wilderness of what he's in, but also the spiritual wilderness of having your son trying to take your life. And can you imagine that? Any of us having our sons trying to take our life? David is saying, in the midst of all that, earnestly I seek you, O God. My soul thirsts for you. My body longs for you. Dry and a weary land where there is no water. David also writes in Psalm 42, verse 1, as the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. It's a praise song that we've sung lots of times before. The deer that is being chased by the warrior or by the hunter, the deer is thirsty. David is being chased by his son, and he's thirsting for God. He says, my soul thirsts for you. Now, if you've ever had the opportunity to be dehydrated, it's an awful feeling. You start to get a headache, and your stomach starts to go, and there's just some bodily things that go on to you that you start to realize, I am getting dehydrated. Start to not really think clearly. David is saying, my mind, my soul, my spirit is so in thirst for God. God is the only one that's going to suffice for me. What does Jesus say to us? I am the water of life. Drink from me and you will never be thirsty again. I find it so amazing how the old and the new flow together. He says, in a dry and a weary land where there is no water. David's in the wilderness. Son Absalom chasing him. Absalom's army chasing him. Do you ever feel like you're in a wilderness? Maybe we don't have our sons or our daughters trying to kill us. But this morning could have been a wilderness for these high school kids. I know the first call that we got from one of the adult leaders was not frantic, but what are we going to do? And they're all excited to go. And all of a sudden, plans change. How about in your own life? Ann Japkema from church here a couple weeks ago had her fainting spell, ended up in the hospital. Now she's at Tender Care. Totally changed. We're praying for Kara Motika, your sister-in-law, how things have changed in her life. We're praying for Virginia, Howard, your sister, how things have changed in her life. The Mellis family, we're still lifting them up in prayer. It's been about 2 months since their little